So anyways, on to the Eastern Conference in this bitch. So you already see it. Now this is going to be, I don't know which one's going to be more interesting, the Western Conference or the Eastern Conference. Personally, I would say that it would have been the Western Conference, but I have a feeling there's a little bit of a problem, you know what I'm saying, because of the semifinals and the conference finals thing. But I would say in terms of competition, I think that the Eastern Conference, competitively, not, talented-wise, because I'm pretty sure this fucking Eastern Conference, Western Conference is going to be way more interesting in my opinion, but the Eastern Conference, this is going to be more competitive, maybe not talent-wise, but in terms of just as a team, as a whole, it's going to be a more competitive playoff series, in playoff conference. So we already have it right here. I'm just going to get right on into this shit. So we have it right here. Firstly, we have the Milwaukee Bucks facing off against the Detroit Pistons. Now, the Detroit Pistons barely fucking clinched the playoffs last night, and that is the crazy part about everything. The fucking Pistons barely clinched the playoffs last night, and what they had to beat the New York Knicks. Okay, of course they beat the shit out of the New York Knicks because the Knicks are fucking trash and they're tanking. But they barely beat them. The Hornets lost, even if they won, they would have still fucking beat them niggas. But they barely made the fucking playoffs, which essentially makes my prediction correct about the Pistons and the Nuggets. Pistons and the Nets and the Magic making the playoffs, which I was correct about that shit. Maybe not exactly with the seed, but I was still correct. So I'm glad that they made the playoffs. But they're playing the Milwaukee Bucks, which they've obviously had an amazing season. Okay, they're gonna beat the niggas. Okay, the fucking Bucks. This is gonna be a boring series, in my opinion, and there's really no reason to actually invest that much time into watching it. So I would say again, the fucking Milwaukee Bucks can easily come in and win this series in a sweep. Okay, basically just a fucking sweep. Giannis doesn't really have to fucking try. This nigga don't really have to fucking try to even score anyways, okay? Obviously, he has the biggest height advantage and wingspan advantage and talent advantage and size advantage in the entire league, okay? You have this motherfucker Giannis, which is mostly of the reason for why they have the best record in the league, okay? And of course you got Eric Bledsoe, which is really hard to fucking stop. Ilyasova, all of these motherfuckers. You have Brook Lopez, and now you even have Pau Gasol, which is fucking crazy. And you Chris Middleton. Okay, all these motherfuckers still not really that experienced in the playoffs, but still they are talented enough to go far in the playoffs to potentially make the finals. So I would say Milwaukee Bucks easily win this series in a sweep. Next fucking series, let me just go down to the 2nd and 7th seed. So now we have the Toronto fucking Raptors. Okay, now we have the Toronto Raptors versus the Orlando Magic. Now this is going to be this is not going to be a crazy fucking series. Now, no, what's crazy about this shit is the Toronto Raptors. Now, this is the part where it gets a little bit confusing for me because I do not know, okay, we do not know how the Raptors are going to perform in the playoffs this season, okay? I don't know how they're going to play in the playoffs this season. I don't know how they're going to perform, you know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, I personally think, and I said it, a few months ago, I personally believe that the Toronto Raptors will not choke in the playoffs, okay? I do think that this is going to be the season where the Toronto Raptors do not choke. And the reason why I say that is because you have Kawhi Leonard. Now, when it comes to the DeMar DeRozan, of course, I think the Spurs are going to choke in the playoffs to some extent because DeMar DeRozan's on the team. The reason, okay, here's my theory. Okay, we'll see if this theory is correct in the actual playoffs. But here's my theory. My theory is that the reason why the Toronto Raptors choked in the playoffs was because their main player, that was supposed to be one of the best players in the league, choked in the playoffs, and that pretty much led to a domino effect to where everyone else on the team is choking in the playoffs, and they don't know what they're doing. You know what I'm saying? And obviously, that includes Kyle Lowry, which he choked like a little fucking bitch. If it's not Kyle Lowry choking the playoffs, it was DeMar DeRozan. But my theory is that now since you have Kawhi Leonard, okay, he's going to be the forefront of anything. And Kawhi Leonard is obviously a proven fucking winner. You had to injure this nigga just to prove that he can't make the NBA Finals and win the championship. So he is a proven winner, former Finals MVP, locking down LeBron, forcing LeBron James to shoot a low percentage from the field, which LeBron didn't make the fucking playoffs, ridiculous. But still, you know what I'm saying? If you have Kawhi Leonard at the forefront, who in my opinion is the defensive player of the year and one of the best players in the entire league, he will lead the fucking team to the point where they don't have to worry about losing just because they don't know what the fuck they're doing. And terrible fucking performances. But don't get me wrong, I'm still going to expect Kyle Lowry to choke like little bitches in the playoffs, choke like a little bitch in the playoffs, but I don't think it's going to be the case for every fucking player in the team. And now when it comes to the Raptors, they are championship ready, but I'll get into that later in the fucking bracket. So you already know this team has the fucking talent that they need with Pascal Siakam, who's the most improved player in the league. You have Marc Gasol, which is an amazing replacement. A player with actual experience, veteran experience, compared to a choking-ass little bitch, Jonas Valanciunas. Okay, thank God. Okay, great thing. Okay, it was great for the Toronto Raptors management for trading him for Pau Gasol. That was a great fucking move. You know what I'm saying? You got Pascal Siakam. You got all these motherfuckers. Okay, well, you don't really have all these motherfuckers. You technically have a bunch of choking-ass motherfuckers. And again, you still have Danny Green, but again, I don't think that he hasn't been proving himself to be a good player in the playoffs the past 5 fucking years. So you may still have some problems, but with Kawhi Leonard, I think that all Kawhi Leonard has to do is just play like a superstar, play the way he needs to play, and then the entire team would just follow suit and play their role, and there's not as much pressure on them. And when there's not as much pressure, then everything works cohesive and everything's right. So, first round, Toronto Raptors versus the Orlando Magic. This is going to be, again, I thought that this was going to be a boring-ass series, but this is not going to be a boring-ass series, because don't get me wrong, the Orlando Magic are probably going to be underrated, probably the most underrated team in this entire Eastern Conference, simply because you have the Orlando Magic. They are going to potentially come out with a really good fucking series. Not in terms of winning, taking it to 6 or 7 games, but still, they might put up a really good fight. But I would say the Raptors win in about 5 games, but expect players like Aaron Gordon. Okay, last night, I believe Eric Gordon or Nikola Vucevic, whatever the fuck that nigga's name is, dropped 20 points and 20 rebounds. Expect that type of shit to happen where these players are showing out, doing what they need to do, playing like a fucking superstar. Expect this kind of shit to happen with the Orlando Magic, especially when they're playing at home, okay? You have Aaron Gordon and Nikola Vucevic. Expect them to have really great performances. But other than that, you don't really have any significant players. So I would say the Raptors win this series in about 5 games, okay? Again, don't be surprised, okay? I would say that the Magic win game 3 of that series. So that's my prediction there. Okay, I can't make this fucking video longer than 20 minutes. So anyways, so we have next series, the Philadelphia 76ers versus the Brooklyn fucking Nets. Okay, now this is just crazy. Okay, this is just crazy. I wanted a better series. Okay, this is the thing. Like, I wanted a better series. Now, let me get, okay, other than the fucking Bucks and Pistons series, this is not really going to be an interesting series, but I wanted to see the Indiana Pacers play the Brooklyn Nets. That would have been a really highly competitive 7-game series. But other than that, we have the Philadelphia 76ers finishing 52-30. Pretty solid season. You know what I'm saying? Pretty solid season under the circumstances. But we have that in the Brooklyn Nets. Now, here's the thing. The Brooklyn Nets have been just amazing. Okay, they have been amazing this season. I would say the Nets are the most underrated team in the league at this moment, other than the Indiana Pacers. They're the most underrated team in the league at this moment, and they have D'Angelo Russell. You know what I'm saying? They have one of the best team chemistries in the entire fucking league. So you have D'Angelo Russell, who I think is going to be the 2014 Damian Lillard of this year's playoffs. And we already know the 2014 Damian Lillard dominated, you know what I'm saying, in the first round against the Houston Rockets and ended up hitting a game winner at the buzzer to win the series. You know what I'm saying? Expect that kind of player, because I have a feeling that he's going to have a lot of hunger and a lot of passion to prove himself this playoffs. Because has this nigga ever made the playoffs before? You know what I'm saying? It's ridiculous. So the Brooklyn Nets versus the Philadelphia 76ers, this is going to be a very interesting series to some extent, but I think that the Sixers, I don't know, okay? I honestly don't know how they're going to play again. It's another one of those Toronto Raptors situations where you don't know if the team's going to choke or not, but I believe that it's just going to be, okay, Ben Simmons, he might come in and dominate, you know what I'm saying? I mean, even though I criticized this motherfucker plenty of times in the past, I don't think he's that bad of a fucking player, you know what I'm saying? I think he can have some significant contributions, even though he's overrated. We have Joel Embiid, who is obviously one of the best big men in the entire league, best power forward in the entire league. And we have Jimmy Butler, you know what I'm saying? We have Jimmy Butler, who can prove himself to be an all-star, and if he actually goes into playoff mode and actually plays great in the playoffs, which I don't know if he's capable of or not, because last season he barely, got lost in 5 games in the first round, he might actually put up some good numbers. But everyone else on the team is just a bunch of inconsistent, overhyped role players. So with that being said, I think when it comes to the backcourt, And when it comes to the, not the backcourt, when it comes to the bench, I think that the Nets will outplay them. You know what I'm saying? Their bench points are going to be way higher than the Sixers bench points, in my opinion. And that may create some inconsistency within the Philadelphia 76ers. But overall, I think that they will win this series in about 5 or 6 games. I'm leaning towards maybe potentially 6 games. Because when it comes to them in Brooklyn, I think they're going to fucking go crazy. Because, like, when was the last time the Brooklyn Nets even made the goddamn playoffs? What was that, 2013 or some shit? So, it's going to be crazy. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be crazy. So, my prediction is that the Nets will take this series to 6 games. Probably the Sixers will probably barely scrape by with the win in the first 2 games. And then the next 2 games will go to the Brooklyn Nets. One of those games will go to overtime, in my opinion. But then games 5 and 6, I think the Sixers got the shit. They'll fucking adjust. But you have limited talent. You know what I'm saying? Because I have a feeling that the fucking bench players on. You know what I'm saying? The bench players on the fucking Sixers are not going to play to a really great extent. So next, we have the Boston Celtics versus the last fucking series in the first round. We have the Boston Celtics versus the Indiana Pacers. Now, this series is going to be way worse than I fucking expected because I'm not 100% sure on the health updates, you know what I'm saying, of Miles Turner because again, okay, here's the thing, okay, at the beginning of March, okay, I predicted the Indiana Pacers to make it to the 3rd seed. I expected them to clinch the 3rd seed, you know what I'm saying, and have a better record than the Philadelphia 76ers. But that turned out not to be true. It was because of the injury of Miles Turner. You know what I'm saying? So if this guy's going to be healthy or not, I'm not sure at this point. If he is fully healthy, then this will be kind of an interesting series. But with the Boston Celtics, of course I criticize the Boston Celtics obviously for being inconsistent. And I think that they will continue that series of inconsistencies that they had all season, at least for most of the season to the playoffs, even though they've been playing a lot better. You know what I'm saying? Within the last 20 games or so. But still, you know what I'm saying? I still think that they will have some struggles against the Indiana Pacers because, again, the Pacers are the most underrated team in the entire league, still maintaining, a good record despite Victor Oladipo not being there. Now, if Victor Oladipo was playing, this shit would go 7 games. But without Miles Turner, I don't think that they have a fucking chance. So if Miles Turner is not playing at all this series, it'll be over. You know what I'm saying? This shit will be over. This will be like a 4 or 5 games. It'll be a fucking sweep or a gentleman's sweep, But if Miles Turner is playing, he's going to give you significant contributions, and this series will at least go 5 or 6 games. Expect the series to go 5 or 6 games without going more in depth to this shit because I don't want this video to be too long. So I would say Celtics win the series at about 5 or 6 games. Expect everyone on the Celtics to at least have 2 games where they're showing out and showing their full potential with Kyrie Irving, Marcus Smart. You have all these motherfuckers, Al Horford. Yeah, I mean, you have a lot of talent. Gordon Hayward, you have a lot of fucking talent. But there's too much talent on there, and everything is balanced out, and it doesn't really help your cause in terms of being a forefronting team. That's why you're not going to have a chance. But anyways, that's besides the point. So we have the Celtics. I would say they beat the Pacers in about 5 or 6 games. Could be a lot better series, and it could have been a way better series if the seedings were different. So second round, let me just go ahead and get right on into this shit. The second round, Milwaukee Bucks versus the Boston Celtics. This is obviously going to be a fucking 5 games. Okay, I would say it's going to be, it could be a sweep, but then again, it could potentially be 5 games. I would say the Bucks win this series in about 5 fucking games. And I know that a lot of people, maybe a lot of Celtics fans would disagree with me, but just watch it fucking happen, okay? The Celtics are not consistent enough to deal with this fucking team, okay? That's all I have to say. They're not consistent enough to deal with this fucking team. Just watch this shit happen. Simply because Giannis is just going to come in dominating. But then again, you know what I'm saying? Then again, the Milwaukee Bucks, we don't know how they're going to play on the road, okay? I will get a much better formulation of how the second round is going to go once I see the first round. But I think that the Bucks, they will not play as good, you know what I'm saying, on the road. You never fucking know. So this series can very well go 6 to 7 games if they play like shit on the road. But I think that they maintain, I think their team chemistry and their cohesiveness is good enough, you know what I'm saying, to be able to handle, tough games on the road. But I think that the Celtics, they may potentially win games 3 and 4, but I would say that they will pull through. The Bucks will pull through and win at least one road game, while the Celtics have little to no chance to win. They're not consistent enough to have that much of a chance on the road, in my opinion, in Milwaukee. A 60-win fucking team. Expect Eric Bledsoe to come in, drop 30 fucking points. Giannis, he's going to get these crazy-ass 45-point numbers. You're just not going to be able to stop them. The Celtics are generally a very small team, a small ball type team. They don't really have a true big man. So how are you going to deal with Giannis when he can literally play all 48 minutes? Anytime. You have more big men like Brook Lopez. You have all these motherfuckers. You have Pau Gasol on that bitch. So it's going to be really hard for the Celtics to deal with them, with their size advantage, just their advantage in general, their talent. So I would say the Celtics have little to no chance in the second round. They're going to be kind of like the Philadelphia 76ers of last season, choking like little bitches in the second round. So we have the Milwaukee Bucks going to the conference finals. Now we have the Toronto Raptors. We have the fucking Toronto Raptors in this bitch going to the second round versus the Philadelphia 76ers. So here's the thing, okay? The Philadelphia 76ers are going to have a seriously hard time, okay? This depends, okay? Again, I can't formulate the second round to see, because we don't know how the Raptors are going to play in this series, okay? For all I know, the fucking Raptors can choke like little bitches and take 6 games just to beat the Orlando Magic and everything will go to shit. But other than that, we don't know. So I think my personal projection is still I maintain about the Raptors not choking, and I still think that the Sixers are going to be inconsistent in plenty of aspects. So with that being said, I'm going to have to say that the Raptors, this will be a somewhat easy series compared to how it could have been if the Sixers are more consistent with this series. So I'm going to have to say the Raptors actually go in and they make it to the conference finals. Now, when they make it to the conference finals, I would say that they beat them in 5 to 6 games. I'm leaning towards 6 games because you never know how crazy the fucking game will be on the road for them. I would say that, yeah, on the road, they'll probably, the Sixers will probably win a few games. Very close fucking games. Expect the road games to be very close. But at home, expect the Raptors to have a fairly easy time. At least one of those games. Maybe game 1 will be close. But game 2, expect them to have a fairly easy time beating them niggas. So I would say, yeah, that's my fucking prediction. Okay, without going further, because I don't want this video to be 20 minutes long. I got this Toronto Raptors in 6 games. Now we have the conference finals. We have the conference finals in this bitch. We have the Milwaukee Bucks. Okay, we have the Milwaukee Bucks versus the Toronto Raptors in the conference finals. Now, and I'm surprised the damn NBA finals started May 30th, but we have the conference finals in this bitch. And I don't give a fuck what anybody says in this. I don't give a fuck what anyone says. Okay? I'm going to have to pick the Toronto Raptors to win this series. I'm picking them. You know what I'm saying? I am picking the Toronto Raptors this series. Mainly to the point that I wanted to get into is that the Toronto Raptors are more championship ready. Okay, they're more championship ready in that bitch. You have more experience. You have the best player, okay, on the Toronto Raptors that have played. If they don't choke, you have Kawhi Leonard leading the way, okay, who is an experienced fucking champion. Okay? Kawhi Leonard has never had, other than like the 2012 playoffs where he was basically a role player, Kawhi Leonard has never had a bad playoff run. Every time Kawhi has made the playoffs, he has always played up to expectation and he played like a superstar. When you have Kawhi Leonard that you can't stop, and you have his great defense, which can alter the way that the Milwaukee Bucks are playing. And even though the Bucks are an amazingly talented team, they're not experienced. Okay, they're not experienced enough. Chris Middleton, not experienced. Eric Bledsoe, not experienced in the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? You have all these motherfuckers not experienced. Brook Lopez. Okay, well, maybe Brook Lopez is a little bit of experience, but that's it. You know what I'm saying? They're not really that experienced. You have a bunch of young fucking players. You have a bunch of young players. Maybe Ilyasova's experienced, but that's not good enough. You have Pascal Siakam, which of course he's not experienced, but he's basically the Bismack Biyombo. Bismack Biyombo in the 2016 NBA playoffs came in dominating. And I think Siakam's going to do the same. Now you actually have experience with Marc Gasol. You actually have fucking experience. You know what I'm saying? With Kawhi Leonard. Kyle Lowry even though he's probably going to choke. But still, you know what I'm saying? They have a better, cohesive, fucking talented team in my opinion. And I think that will propel them to make the NBA Finals. And expect them to have serious problems on the road. Of course, this is operating under the assumption that the Raptors aren't going to choke. But if they don't choke, expect the Bucks to have massive amounts of problems and expect them to actually pull through and win some games on the road. So I would say that the Raptors win about probably game 2 of this series, win 1 game at home, and then win game 5 and 6. So I would say the Raptors, they're going to, if they gain momentum, the Raptors are going to win this series in about 6 games. And of course, we have the NBA Finals, which again, I'm going to spend little time on this fucking shit. We have the NBA Finals, Toronto Raptors. What the fuck? Okay, Toronto Raptors versus the Golden State Warriors. This is going to be a boring ass NBA Finals.